Welcome to the LinkedIn Local Vienna podcast. Today, we're diving into topics that quietly derail many B2B teams: account focus, strategic clarity, and identifying the right customers in complex markets. Our guest is someone who believes B2B growth is not a tooling problem, but an alignment problem. Josh Shulman is the founder of Business Marketing and works with B2B and SaaS companies worldwide. His philosophy is simple. Growth doesn't come from doing more, it comes from focusing on what truly matters. In this conversation, we'll explore why ICP and account-based initiatives often fail before they even start, where leadership, marketing, and sales lose alignment, and how to know if your organization is truly ready for an account-focused strategy. Josh, great to have you.
Let's dive into the first question. I would suggest when you are approached by companies, when you have your first conversation, what problem would you say is it that companies actually come to you with, even if they might not phrase it that way?
I would say the biggest problem is often both conversion rates and time to conversion. So they might be blaming marketing or sales, suggesting, all right, listen, we have such a great product, we have such a great solution, we know who it's for, we have a great product market fit, but we just can't get them to cross the final line to actually either convert the form on their landing page or make a purchase. And they just can't ever figure out why, because they think they have this great set of messaging, this great tone of voice, this great persona. They don't. It's all very monotonous, especially now with all of these LLMs out there pre-writing everything for you. So I think at the core of it is they don't know how to get their target audience to convert and why.
Okay. And they phrase it that way?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. They might say, oh, I have a content problem.
That's interesting.
Maybe they'll have an idea for the type of content they want to distribute. They say, we want to do blogs, but they don't know why. They don't know necessarily that format of content isn't the best for their target audience. Because realistically, remember, when is the last time you've really went on someone's website and read a blog from their homepage?
Deep in the funnel, if we would look at it from a funnel perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably. Okay. Yeah, interesting. Okay. So content, an interesting angle is that. And you talked about target audience, and that is also one of the things that, little spoiler alert here, you're going to be talking about at the next LinkedIn Local Vienna event on February 11th, about targeting personas, particularly ICPs. Mm-hmm. What would you say makes that one of the topics that they can't phrase, they can't articulate, particularly not when it comes to execution, but to thinking? And it's like, just taking a step back into the mindset or that situation that they are in, where they cannot phrase it. How do you perceive that?
I think everyone, for good reason, is a little too heavily biased about who their target audience is. Because if you break down that keyword, ICP, that's your ideal customer profile. Okay. So that's who you want to be your customer, but that might not always be the person who purchases from you. And that particular person might not just be one person. So we've been trained to think about ICP just from the perspective of demographics, company size, geography, maybe their tech stack, and usually they say one decision maker. And I don't remember the last time I encountered a company that didn't say that a C-class or director level chef was their target audience.
100%.
That can't be everyone. When you look at the solution that a company provides, you read through the description, no, this is going to be your individual contributors at the very bottom of your company who are using this. You should be targeting those. And then there's so many different factors to consider within your ICP today to really adjust, hey, who are you communicating? Why are you communicating? And what you should be communicating them with. Because when you're defining that ICP and you're looking at it, every person in that purchase decision process needs to have a different set of messaging.
Following up on what you just said, it almost feels kind of obvious that ICP is not something that falls easy or is easy to figure out for everyone. Particularly then fails so often in actual practice. So why would you say is that? Is it because we've been trained to do something? Is it just our mindset and our frameworks that we have forced ourselves into, or by education? Or is it the market that seems to dictate what we've done and what we're doing?
I wish there was a single answer to this, but it's really variable on every individual organization, because maybe you can say a lot of it has been influenced by, let's say, digital marketing. So let's say modern ICPs and targeting, most of it's been set by what you can go in, for example, on LinkedIn, on Google, on X, you name it. When you set the parameters and you tweak the levers within these platforms for who do you want to target, those are the key parameters that you're setting. So that's part one of it. So we're thinking throughout the box of what is just the digital levers that we can tweak here and there. The next part is who actually owns the different part of the process. And realistically, it should be a multi-person effort within the organization. You should have marketing, product, sales, and the executive leadership providing their inputs and then codifying some sort of methodology to say, okay, this is where we settle, this is what we agree, and then you leave it in the hands of your external communicators, so marketing, sales, to actually get that message across. I would say the last bit, and I don't mean this in the most negative way, is CRM. So much like the conversation around the digital ad levers, CRMs only have fixed fields. Some people set their ICPs just based on what they can filter within their CRM, and that's not enough. I think that there's a really key element that's a little bit more subjective. So disqualification factors, context, keywords, these are things you're not going to necessarily find in your CRM today.
I would wholeheartedly agree, and to your point that you need those different functions within the company to basically sit at the table and figure this out. It very much is also a communication matter. So has that conversation actually happened on who we should ideally be talking to? Because different roles, different units within a company might have a slightly differing, and we often see that, right, in our work, a slightly different view on which is the ideal customer, because it's also a matter of perspective.
Yeah. And the next challenge that arises is processes, because when you have that many people communicating that, you encounter the too many cooks in the kitchen scenario.
Yes.
So when you bring in that many people to come to that level of agreement, you need to have an established process for how do we come to the final decision about our endpoint today. Now, that's to say, realistically, I think there's a couple different discussions here. How often you should be updating and making sure your ICP is still relevant. Some people say 1 month, some people say once a quarter, once a year. Highly flexible based on where you are as an organization, where the economics are sitting at the moment, and your product market fit.
And we do talk a lot, both of us, as well, about account strategies. I introduced you also with that tag. Do you feel that particular method, or some would say tactic, others would argue it's campaigns. We would argue probably it's culture and an operating system. That the need to have a clear view on who you define as your ICP when working within account-based strategies is more important than other operational systems or operating systems?
I think it's a really important baseline, because when you're looking at account-focused, so account-based marketing or sales, ABX, ABM, ABS, whatever you want to call it, that requires a much more niche down focus, because when you're doing your ICPs for PLG or B2C, you can say, hey, here's my message. Let's shoot it to the masses and try to get as much as possible.
Yep.
When you're looking at the account level, you have to be able to narrow this down to a handful of audiences that, let's say, one person hand selects. So general rule of thumb is, when you're running account-focused strategies, you might have one person who's owning a given motion, and they should pick a maximum of 10 to 20 accounts per month, maybe. So you can scale that out. Let's say that's based around salespeople. You have 3 salespeople. They should only be addressing between 30 to 60 accounts in total per month. That way they can give their focused effort.
And there goes your ICP.
Yeah. And that said, how do you refine it from there? You can't just say, all right, listen, I want to go to this industry. I want to go to this geography with this company size. You also need to say, what are the very specific pain points? How do they address the pain points? What are the solutions? What are the adjacent technographics? So what are tool sets that they're currently using and might be parallel to that framework, to your solution? And then what are the key decision makers and the buying committee? So that takes a lot of effort. Account focused requires a lot of effort by a lot of different people. So that's why you have these additional elements between account focused versus, let's say, more generalized.
So you brought in the human aspect of resources in a motion, in a GTM motion, actually. Where would you? It's an abstract question, so feel free to approach it that way. Where would you say does trust break inside a go-to-market team when it comes to that?
There's a lot of places it could break, but at the primary point, it's leadership. So if you have leaders that don't trust in their team to make decisions, that don't facilitate good communication, then that trust is gonna fall apart. Because a core part of this entire framework, and it's not a part of the GTM team I've referenced yet, but let's say customer success. Those are the folks that are on the ground. They understand what are the pain points that your specific existing audience who have already given you money are facing. When's the last time a seller or a marketer really seriously took the feedback that came from CS? And that's a siloed problem that comes from leadership. CS is most often speaking with product. And that entire loop needs to be completely cyclical and closed. Because CS isn't speaking with marketing, because why would they? Marketing isn't speaking to CS, again, because why would they? CS might be thinking, what will marketing material help me today? When at the end of the day, marketing material can be used to help with retention and expansion. And furthermore, the last bit that you can say is really measurable about why trust breaks is, how are you actually setting your KPIs and your OKRs? Every single team is usually set with its own competitive KPIs and OKRs.
Point.
I can go in further, but then that's a completely different topic.
Yeah,
than today,
it's a good segue for the next question. But I also find it interesting that you brought up something that we do really see as well very much when we work with organizations, that mostly when this famous this famous disruption hits the organization, that marketing or sales are not talking to each other, and that's where people claim that it breaks. It's not the fault of marketing or the fault of sales. It's a leadership topic where, as you said, right, those silos are not connected by some kind of glue. And very often that glue could ideally just simply be shared KPIs, shared OKRs, etc., and so forth, right?
They might leaders might set pipeline as a shared goal, but that's not enough, because then they'll still say, okay, sales SDRs, you're measured on outbound leads, and marketing, you're measured on inbound.
Yeah.
They should be working together.
Yeah.
Outbound is infinitely better when it's already been engaged with the marketing initiative, and inbound, even if it didn't convert into a contact. And likewise, inbound opportunities will be like, oh, hey, I remember I had a really good conversation with the salesperson one day. So the fact that they're kept separate at the bottom line will still break it, even if you have them sharing pipeline as a goal. You need to have multiple shared metrics that actually people can say, oh yeah, I can get behind that.
Yeah, true, absolutely. So as I said, we can deep dive into that with the next question as well, because that's a hard question, which is, do you have any hard lesson that you learned that you want to share with us about focus and targeting in that sense?
Oh, I have so many. But if
pick one,
if we're gonna focus in on targeting specifically, I can reference an experience I had working for a software development services company, which that's about as open-ended as it sounds. So we had developers, and we offered their development services to any customer that would have them. That's a broken ICP business model, because when you say, oh, I can target everyone, you're targeting no one.
Sure.
And we ultimately narrowed down our ICP into, and these are two industries that in no way, shape, or form ever collaborate, iGaming and supply chain. And quarter to quarter, we were adjusting, okay, are we targeting iGaming? Are we targeting supply chain? Should we try targeting health tech or SaaS, that's a whole nother category and much broader. And the problem came down to, we were switching our ICPs and our focuses so often, we were never able to create communication or content that was sticky enough to actually resonate with a given ICP. One quarter is not enough, especially if you have a long sales cycle.
Sure.
And we're talking about account focused. That's most pertinent in times when you have long sales cycles.
Yeah.
And that's, let's say, 90 days or more.
Yeah. Interesting. So I'm pretty sure that a lot of our audience would share a similar hard lesson like that, because I think that's one of the most common issues that we see, is that, I don't know, is it just the fast pace that we live in right now, is that organizations switch models, operating models, so quickly that they can actually not even pick the fruits of it, that harvest the fruits of their doing, because they're just shifting away too fast before they see any results.
I think it's twofold, and it might get me in hot water for saying some of this, but on the one hand, which I would say is more in the positive camp, we've grown accustomed to this idea of fail fast.
Yes.
Which, applied correctly, is good.
Yeah.
But then you have to fail with the right parameters in mind.
Correct.
You have to make sure that you have a certain set of timelines and restrictions about how broad the failure can be.
Yeah.
Now, the other part is, I think, greed. where you might have a company that's reached certain level of profitability,
Yeah.
but everyone wants to chase unicorn status. They want to get from 5 mil to 10 mil to 20 mil in 5 years. And founders, VCs are never comfortable with stagnation or slow growth. They always want exponential growth.
Yeah.
So that's always going to cause you to say, let's switch, because you need to get that money fast, either to get back on the VC fund or to line your pockets a little bit more.
Good point, and I'll take you up on that, particularly when it comes to switching perspective. Your English is perfect enough to assume that you're not of Austrian origin. Hence, I'm going to take the perspective and put it on a geographical level now and ask you a question, because I know you have that experience of working internationally, as to what would you say is different when you work within the DACH region, within Europe. We're talking account focused is actually something that came from the US space, from the Anglo-Saxon space, really very much still is. So what's different for Europe, or particularly DACH, if you can make that differentiation, and the international Anglo-Saxon community, if you want to put it that way?
I think,
and is there one?
It is. There's a very clear one. So it's, I guess, unfortunate or fortunate. I'll let the viewers decide how they want to fall into this category. The DACH region, in terms of sales and marketing initiatives, always lacks what happens in North America, so US and Canada. You can also technically group UK into that general category.
That's why I was Anglo-Saxon.
So they are usually 3 to 5 years ahead in terms of strategy and best practices.
Yeah.
I won't say the same for tool sets, because I think DACH is quite good at adopting some tool sets. But when it comes to mindset, that's a key difference. DACH region strikes me as being very, very heavily focused on trust-based. So you still, of course, have traditional methodologies running, because the old sales hands.
Them. Okay.
Yeah, we trust in them. We say, all right, let's continue making those cold calls. Let's do emails, and that's enough. But at the end of the day, they don't trust to receive that. It's like, I don't know you. Why would I talk to you? And that's what I found the most pertinent. I really can't speak too much on the Swiss people from Switzerland, but for example, Germans and Austrians, if they don't know you, they're like, who are you and why am I talking to you?
Yeah.
So trust building and relationship building is of the utmost importance.
Okay.
And historically, that happened mostly in in-person environments, and I think that's why you're seeing the resurgence of in-person events happening over the past 5 years.
Yeah.
But it's also possible to do this digitally too.
Yeah.
So I think DACH especially is really, really focused on relationship building more than anything else.
And that's,
more than the US.
That's something where the US and the Anglo-Saxon space is a bit easier on giving you that preemptive trust, so to say, that bit of trust, so they could hear what you want.
Yeah.
And, okay. Yeah.
I think the Anglo-Saxon point of view is more, how do I stand out in the crowd now? It's less about trust.
Okay.
So it's more oriented around humor, creativity, and especially now breaking through the AI slop. Like, what makes you stand out in all of this communication? Whereas here in DACH, you still have to be like, okay, there's a lot of similar communication, but I'm gonna be really cautious first. So I wanna understand, can I trust you first?
So that's a hint for what's to come within the next few years for the DACH region in terms of a good strategy we should apply. Okay. Now, without spoilers, we talked about you being a speaker at LinkedIn Local Vienna. What do you hope people will rethink after your session?
It's going to be the saying in English is it's going to be a hard pill to swallow. I think there's a similar one in German, but
I can't think of it right now, but yes.
But I think realistically, I'd like for everyone to try to take a third perspective view on their ICPs, especially if they're looking at addressing and launching an account-based strategy. Because, hey, I made this bet the other day on LinkedIn that 90% of companies aren't correctly addressing their ICP. Either they're not correctly addressing them or they don't have it correctly.
So they're not doing it correctly.
They're not doing it correctly.
90%.
90%.
Was your bet. Okay.
I made that bet and I said, listen, come to me, show me your ecosystem. I'll tell you what's missing in 30 minutes or less. So I'm hoping that people have that third eye perspective and say, all right, listen, I'm looking at my organization today, at our messaging today. This is what's missing. And I'm having, I know it's the same in German, rose-colored glasses.
Yeah.
Because this is your baby, this is your messaging, this is your company. You're not viewing it from the perspective of how do people receive it. So I'd like people at the session to be able to look at their ICP and say, is this actually received how I want it to be?
That's interesting. So your claim is that we're all having a bit too much of an introspective view of our ICPs, so to say.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, if you look at my website, I would fail my own test. Immediately.
Look, I wanted to go and buy coffee from you immediately.
Yeah, there you go.
Isn't that what you're saying? Okay. Josh, it's been a pleasure to have you here. I hope we're going to have coffee at another point in time. And thank you for watching, dear audience. I hope you enjoyed it as much as me sitting here with Josh. And you will join us on September 11th. Not
February
September.
11th.
February. It's earlier. February 11th of 2026 in just a couple days at LinkedIn Local Vienna at the Co-Innovation Factory in the 10th District. Be there or be square is what they say, right?
Yes, correct.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.